I was about to leave work when my wife texted me, "Check the baby monitor. That's not our nanny. I don't know who that woman is holding our daughter." My hand froze on my office door handle at 5:47 p.m. on a Thursday evening, the text message lighting up my phone screen in a way that made my vision blur. I read it again, then a third time. The words didn't make sense. Of course it was our nanny, Kelsey Thompson, the 26-year-old early childhood education major we'd hired 3 months ago after interviewing 12 candidates and running an extensive background check. My wife Amber was probably just tired, probably seeing things wrong on the grainy baby monitor feed. But my hand was already pulling up the app on my phone, opening the live view from the camera in our daughter's nursery. The woman on the screen was not Kelsey Thompson. She was older, maybe in her 40s, with dark hair instead of Kelsey's blonde. She was wearing Kelsey's favorite blue cardigan that she kept in our coat closet, but the face was completely different. And she was holding our 7-month-old daughter Lily, rocking her gently while looking down at her with an expression I couldn't quite read from the camera angle. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might vomit right there in my office. I'm Carter Westfield, and I'd been working as a senior project manager at a tech consulting firm for 8 years when my daughter was born. Amber and I had waited until we were 32 to have kids, wanting to be financially stable and emotionally ready. We lived in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, had good jobs, and thought we'd done everything right. We'd been meticulous about finding childcare for Lily when Amber went back to work after maternity leave. The process had taken 6 weeks of interviews, reference checks, and trial days. Kelsey had been perfect, experienced, certified in infant CPR, with glowing references from 3 previous families. We'd even paid for an upgraded background check that went back 10 years. Kelsey had started watching Lily 3 months ago, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. She'd been wonderful. Lily loved her. She'd send us updates throughout the day with photos and videos. She kept detailed feeding and nap logs. She'd even helped us sleep train Lily using gentle methods that actually worked. In 3 months, there had never been a single concern. Until now. Until this exact moment when I was looking at a complete stranger holding my daughter in our home. I called Amber immediately, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. She answered on the first ring. "Carter, I've been watching for the past 10 minutes. I don't know who that woman is. She's not Kelsey. She walked into the frame 20 minutes ago and picked up Lily like she owned the place. I thought maybe Kelsey had a friend over or something, but then I zoomed in and that's not Kelsey's face. That's someone else entirely." "Where are you?" I asked, already grabbing my keys and laptop bag. "I'm in the car about 15 minutes from home. I left the office the second I saw her. Carter, what do we do? Do we call the police? What if she's dangerous? What if—" Amber's voice cracked. "What if she does something to Lily before we get there?" I was already running through the office, ignoring confused looks from coworkers. "I'm leaving right now. I'm 10 minutes away. Don't call the police yet. Let me—" I didn't know what to say. "Let me what?" "Just keep watching the monitor. If she does anything at all that looks dangerous, you call 911 immediately. I'm calling Kelsey right now." I hung up and dialed Kelsey's number while I sprinted to my car in the parking garage. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. 3rd time. Voicemail. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I opened my text thread with Kelsey and saw our last exchange from this morning, her usual cheerful update about Lily eating all her breakfast and being in a good mood. Everything had seemed completely normal. I texted, "Kelsey, I need you to call me immediately. Where are you right now?" No response. The message showed as delivered but not read. I peeled out of the parking garage doing 40 in a 25 zone, my phone mounted on the dashboard with the baby monitor app open. The woman, whoever she was still just rocking Lily, moving around the nursery in a slow circle. She was singing something. I couldn't hear the audio through the app because we'd turned the sound off months ago to avoid the feedback loop, but I could see her lips moving. Lily looked calm, not distressed. That should have been comforting, but it just made everything more surreal and wrong. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. "This is Carter." A woman's voice, shaky and scared. "Mr. Westfield, this is Kelsey. I'm calling from someone else's phone. Mine was stolen. I'm at the police station right now." My foot hit the brake instinctively, nearly causing the car behind me to rear-end me. "What? What happened? Where are you?" Kelsey was crying. "I was at the coffee shop on Maple Street this morning before work. I always stop there. Someone must have taken my bag from my chair while I was ordering. My wallet, my phone, my keys, everything, including the spare key to your house that you gave me for emergencies." The spare key. We'd given her a key 3 weeks into her employment, after she'd proven reliable. It was supposed to make things easier if we were running late or if there was an emergency. "Kelsey, who's at my house right now? There's a woman there with my daughter, and it's not you." Silence on the other end. "What?" "No, that's impossible. I called you from the police station as soon as I realized my things were stolen. I was supposed to be at your house 30 minutes ago, but I've been here filling out reports and trying to cancel my credit cards. Nobody should be there." "There's someone there." My voice came out strangled. "There's a woman in my daughter's nursery who's not you. She's wearing your blue cardigan and holding my baby." I heard Kelsey make a sound like she'd been punched. Oh my God. Mr. Westfield, You need to call the police right now. This isn't a coincidence. Someone planned this. Someone knew I would be at that coffee shop. They knew about your house, about Lily. This was targeted. She was right. The realization hit me like ice water. This wasn't random. Someone had stolen Kelsey's identity, her access to our home, her position with our daughter. Someone had been planning this. I was 7 minutes from home. Kelsey, I have to go. I'm calling 911. I hung up and immediately dialed emergency services, my hands so sweaty I could barely hold the phone. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice was calm and professional. There's a stranger in my house with my baby. My nanny's identity was stolen and someone else is there pretending to be her. I'm on my way home right now. I rattled off my address. The operator asked me to stay on the line while she dispatched officers. Sir, I need you to not enter the house until police arrive. The individual could be dangerous. My daughter is in there. I was shouting now. I'm not waiting outside while some stranger has my baby. The operator tried to talk me down, explaining protocol, but I could see my street up ahead. I could see Amber's silver Nissan parked 3 houses down from ours, pulled over at an angle like she'd stopped in a panic. I pulled up behind her, and she was out of her car immediately, running to mine. Her face was streaked with tears. She's still just rocking her. Nothing's changed. But Carter, we need to get in there. We need to get Lily. The operator was still talking in my ear about waiting for police, but I was already out of the car. Amber grabbed my arm. What if she runs? What if she takes Lily and runs when she sees us? I looked at our house. From the outside, everything looked normal. Lights on in the living room and kitchen. The front door closed. No signs of disturbance. Police are 2 minutes out, I told Amber, checking the app the operator had made me download. We wait. We watch the monitor. If she tries to leave, we block the exits. Those 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. We stood in the street, both of our phones open to the baby monitor app, watching this stranger move through our daughter's room. She'd put Lily down in the crib now and was changing her diaper. The casual intimacy of it, this woman touching our baby, caring for her like she had every right, made me want to break down the door. But Lily was safe for now. She was calm. We had eyes on her. I held on to that. 2 patrol cars pulled up at 6:04 p.m., lights off but moving fast. 4 officers emerged. The lead officer, a woman in her 50s with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, approached us. I'm Sergeant Rachel Kowalski. I've been with the department for 23 years. Tell me what we're dealing with. I explained everything in a rush. The stolen identity, the stranger in the house, our daughter in the nursery. Sergeant Kowalski listened carefully, then looked at my phone showing the baby monitor feed. Her expression hardened. We're going in. The child's safety is priority 1. I need you both to stay here. That's our daughter, Amber said, her voice breaking. Please just get her out safely. Sergeant Kowalski nodded. That's exactly what we're going to do. She signaled to the other officers, and they moved toward the house in formation. 2 went around back. Sergeant Kowalski and the 4th officer approached the front door. I watched it happen in surreal split screen, the real-time view of officers approaching our porch, and the baby monitor feed showing the woman in the nursery, still oblivious, now folding Lily's laundry. Sergeant Kowalski knocked, hard, official knocks that echoed down the street. On the baby monitor, the woman's head snapped up. She froze. Then she looked directly at the camera. For the first time, I got a clear view of her face. She was probably 45, with dark eyes and sharp features, and she was smiling. Not a friendly smile. Something else. Something that made my skin crawl. She picked up Lily from the crib and walked out of frame. No! Amber screamed. She's taking her! She's moving! I shouted to Sergeant Kowalski, who was already on her radio, ordering the back officers to watch all exits. I heard wood splintering. They were forcing the door, then shouting, officers announcing themselves, ordering someone to stop. Amber and I were running toward the house before we even consciously decided to move. Another officer tried to stop us at the front walk, but I pushed past him. Inside our house, the front door hanging crooked on its hinges, I could hear Lily crying. That sound, the sound of my daughter scared and confused, obliterated every rational thought. I ran toward the nursery. Sergeant Kowalski had the woman against the wall, hands behind her back, being cuffed. Another officer had Lily, holding her carefully, trying to calm her. The officer saw me and immediately handed her over. She's fine. She's not hurt, just scared from all the noise. I took my daughter, and she immediately quieted, grabbing onto my shirt with her tiny fists. Amber was there seconds later, and we both just held her, checking her over frantically for any sign of harm. She was fine, physically fine, just confused and upset from the sudden chaos. The woman in handcuffs was staring at us, that same wrong smile on her face. You have a beautiful daughter, she said. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. I've been taking such good care of her. Sergeant Kowalski jerked the woman toward the door. Don't say another word. But the woman kept talking as they led her away. I would have been a better mother than you. I would have given her everything. She would have been so happy with me. The words made my blood run cold. This wasn't a burglary. This wasn't even kidnapping for ransom. This was something worse. Something more personal and more twisted. After they took the woman away, 2 more officers arrived, Detectives this time. The lead detective introduced himself as Thomas Brennan, a 15-year veteran of the department's Major Crimes Division. He was in his early 40s, wearing a rumpled suit and carrying a worn leather notebook. His partner, Detective Lisa Chen— wait, I can't use that name. His partner, Detective Lisa Nguyen, was younger, maybe early 30s, with alert eyes that missed nothing. They asked us to sit down and walk through everything from the beginning. We did. The whole story. Hiring Kelsey, the theft this morning, the discovery on the baby monitor. Detective Brennan took detailed notes. The woman we arrested has no ID on her. She's refusing to give us her name, but we ran her fingerprints and got a hit. Her name is Patricia Dunn. She's 46 years old and has a record. He paused, looking at his notes like he was deciding how much to tell us. She was arrested 8 years ago for attempting to abduct an infant from a shopping mall. She did 3 years in prison and was released on parole 5 years ago. The room started spinning. A woman with a history of trying to steal babies had been in our house with our daughter. Amber made a sound like a wounded animal and clutched Lily tighter. How did she know about us? About Kelsey? Detective Nguyen answered. That's what we're working to find out. We've already sent officers to that coffee shop on Maple Street to pull security footage. We need to determine if Patricia Dunn was the one who stole Kelsey's bag or if she had an accomplice. Either way, this was planned. She didn't just randomly end up in your home. Over the next several hours, while crime scene techs processed our house and detectives interviewed us separately, a picture emerged. Patricia Dunn had been following Kelsey for at least 2 weeks. Security footage from the coffee shop showed Patricia sitting at a nearby table the previous Thursday, the Thursday before that, and again this morning. She'd been learning Kelsey's routine. This morning, when Kelsey set her bag down to order, Patricia had grabbed it and disappeared within 30 seconds. Kelsey hadn't even noticed until she returned to her table, but the planning went deeper than that. Detective Brennan showed us Patricia's phone, which they'd recovered from the house. She had photos of our home, our street, our cars. She had screenshots of Kelsey's social media posts, including ones where Kelsey had mentioned working for the sweetest family with the most adorable baby girl. She had notes about our schedules, when I left for work, when Amber left, when Kelsey usually arrived. She'd been stalking us for weeks, maybe longer. Why us? Amber asked, her voice hollow. Why our daughter? Detective Nguyen hesitated. Patricia Dunn lost a daughter 20 years ago. The child died from sudden infant death syndrome at 7 months old. According to her psychiatric records from her previous arrest, she's never accepted the death. She's been fixated on finding a replacement. She's attempted this before, and she'll likely attempt it again if given the chance. 7 months old. The same age as Lily. The calculation was too precise to be coincidence. The detectives wanted to search Patricia Dunn's apartment, and they needed our permission to use evidence found in our home. We gave it immediately. They left around 10 p.m., promising to update us as the investigation progressed. We were left in our house, our home that no longer felt safe, with our daughter and a front door that had been kicked in. Amber's brother came over to help me install a temporary fix on the door and then stayed the night on our couch. Neither Amber nor I slept. We took turns holding Lily, watching her breathe, reassuring ourselves that she was safe. The next morning, Detective Brennan called. We searched Patricia Dunn's apartment. I need you to come down to the station. There's something you need to see. His tone made my stomach churn. Amber and I left Lily with Amber's mother and drove to the police station in silence. In an interview room, Detective Brennan had laid out photos on the table. We found these in Dunn's apartment. I'm sorry, but you need to know the extent of what she was planning. The photos showed a bedroom set up like a nursery. Pink walls, a crib with a mobile, a changing table stocked with diapers and wipes. But the details were what made it nightmarish. The walls were covered with photos of Lily, dozens of them, printed and arranged in neat rows. Photos taken from outside our house, through windows. Photos from Kelsey's social media. Photos that Dunn must have taken herself while watching us. In one corner of the room was a collection of baby clothes, all in Lily's size, price tags still attached, a closet full of supplies, formula, bottles, toys. She was building a life for your daughter, Detective Nguyen said quietly. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. She'd been preparing this for months. We found receipts going back to January. That was when Lily was 2 months old, before we'd even hired Kelsey. Patricia Dunn had been planning to take our daughter for half of Lily's entire life. They showed us more. A fake birth certificate with Patricia's name as mother and Lily's birth date. Forged medical records. A social security card application in process. She was going to disappear with your daughter and create a completely new identity for her, Detective Brennan explained. We found bus tickets to Phoenix, Arizona dated for tomorrow. She had everything ready. If you hadn't checked that baby monitor when you did, if your wife hadn't noticed something was wrong, Dunn would have left your house at the normal time, and you would have come home to find your daughter missing. The realization of how close we'd come to losing Lily forever made me physically ill. I had to leave the interview room and throw up in the bathroom down the hall. When I came back, Amber was crying silently, her hands pressed against her mouth. Detective Nguyen had a hand on her shoulder. We're building an airtight case. She's being charged with attempted kidnapping, burglary, identity theft, and stalking. Her parole will be revoked for the previous conviction. She's not going to see the outside of a prison cell for a very long time. But that wasn't enough. Not for me. What about prevention? What's stopping her from doing this again when she eventually gets out? What's stopping her from fixating on another family, another baby? Detective Brennan's expression was grim. The system isn't perfect. All we can do is make sure the sentence is as long as possible and recommend psychiatric evaluation. But ultimately, the parole board will make those decisions years from now. Over the following weeks, the case against Patricia Dunn built momentum. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Michael Vaughn, who'd been with the DA's office for 12 years, called us in for multiple meetings. He showed us the evidence they'd compiled, the photos, the fake documents, the detailed surveillance records. Patricia had kept a journal documenting every time she'd seen Lily, describing her as my angel and my second chance. The entries were disturbing in their delusion and detail. But there was a complication. Patricia Dunn's defense attorney, a public defender named Sandra Ellis, was mounting a defense based on mental illness. She's going to argue that Dunn was not in her right mind, that she genuinely believed Lily was her daughter reincarnated or some similar delusion. She'll push for psychiatric facility placement instead of prison. Michael Vaughn's jaw tightened. We're countering with the evidence of premeditation. This wasn't a psychotic break. This was calculated, planned, methodical. She knew exactly what she was doing. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks after the arrest. Amber and I had to testify about the timeline of events, about our hiring of Kelsey, about the discovery on the baby monitor. Patricia Dunn sat at the defense table, staring at us the entire time with that same unsettling smile. During a break, she tried to approach us in the hallway. Bailiff stopped her, but she managed to call out, "I would have loved her better than you do. I would have kept her safe." The judge, Honorable Margaret Thorne, who'd been on the bench for 18 years, ordered Patricia Dunn to remain silent. But the damage was done. Those words echoed in my head for weeks. The idea that this woman genuinely believed she could offer Lily something better, something we were failing to provide, was more disturbing than if she'd just been a random kidnapper looking for ransom. The trial was scheduled for 4 months out. In the meantime, we had to figure out how to move forward with our lives. We couldn't go back to using a nanny. Neither of us could trust leaving Lily with anyone anymore. Amber reduced her hours at work. I arranged to work from home 3 days a week. We installed a comprehensive security system with cameras covering every angle of the property. We changed all our locks, upgraded to smart locks that logged every entry. We varied our routines deliberately, never going to the same places at the same times. But the paranoia was exhausting. Every stranger who looked at Lily in the grocery store felt like a threat. Every car that drove slowly past our house felt like surveillance. Amber started having panic attacks. I wasn't sleeping more than 3 or 4 hours a night. We both started therapy, first individually, then as a couple. Our therapist, Dr. Kenneth Shaw, who specialized in trauma and PTSD, helped us understand that what we were experiencing was normal, given the circumstances. You've had your sense of safety violated in the most fundamental way. Someone targeted your child in your own home. It's going to take time to rebuild that feeling of security. 3 months after the arrest, Michael Vaughn called with news. Patricia Dunn's psychological evaluation came back. She's been diagnosed with delusional disorder and complicated grief, but the psychiatrist confirmed she was competent to stand trial and understood the wrongfulness of her actions. This actually helps our case. She knew what she was doing was illegal, but she did it anyway. That's not insanity. That's criminal intent. The trial began on a Monday morning in late September. The courthouse was old, with dark wood paneling and high ceilings that made every sound echo. Amber and I sat in the gallery, Lily staying with Amber's parents. We'd decided not to bring her anywhere near the courthouse, not wanting her to be anywhere near Patricia Dunn ever again. The prosecution presented their case methodically. The surveillance photos, the forged documents, Patricia's journal with its disturbing entries. Kelsey testified about the theft of her belongings and her established routine that Patricia had clearly studied. The officers who'd responded testified about finding Patricia in our home, holding Lily. The defense tried to paint Patricia as a tragic figure broken by loss and mental illness. Sandra Ellis called psychiatric experts who explained Patricia's grief and delusion. But on cross-examination, Michael Vaughn got each expert to admit that Patricia had understood her actions were illegal. She'd hidden her planning. She'd used deception. She'd worn Kelsey's clothing to maintain the disguise. These were not the actions of someone in a complete psychotic break. The most damning evidence came from Patricia's computer. Digital forensics had recovered deleted files showing extensive research into child abduction cases, specifically ones where the abductor had successfully hidden the child's identity. She'd studied failures and successes. She'd planned meticulously to avoid the mistakes other abductors had made. This destroyed the insanity defense completely. On the 4th day of trial, the prosecution rested. The defense called only 2 witnesses, psychiatric experts. The closing arguments happened the next day. Michael Vaughn spoke for 45 minutes, walking the jury through every piece of evidence showing premeditation and intent. This was not a crime of passion or mental break. This was a calculated attempt to steal a child and disappear. The defendant spent months planning, preparing, stalking this family. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she would have succeeded if not for a mother's intuition that something was wrong. Sandra Ellis argued for 30 minutes about mental illness and grief and the tragedy of losing a child. But her argument rang hollow against the mountain of evidence. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted kidnapping, burglary, identity theft, stalking, and violation of parole. Patricia Dunn showed no reaction as the verdict was read. She just sat there, still wearing that slight smile. Sentencing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Amber and I were given the opportunity to deliver victim impact statements. I spent days writing mine, trying to articulate the violation we'd felt, the ongoing trauma, the way our lives had been fundamentally altered. When the day came, I stood at the podium in the courtroom and read, "Patricia Dunn tried to steal not just our daughter, but our future. Every milestone Lily reaches, every first word and first step and first day of school, will remember how close we came to missing all of it. She didn't just target our family, she targeted our trust in humanity, in safety, in the basic assumption that our home is a sanctuary. That damage can't be measured or repaired." Amber's statement was shorter, but more emotional. She talked about the nightmares, the panic attacks, the fear that had become our constant companion. "I can't even take my daughter to the park without scanning every face, wondering if the next Patricia Dunn is watching us. She didn't just try to take my baby, she took my peace of mind, and I don't know if I'll ever get it back." Judge Thorne listened to both statements carefully. Then she addressed Patricia Dunn directly. "You showed a disturbing level of premeditation and deception. You stalked a family for months. You targeted an infant with the specific intent to steal her and disappear. While I acknowledge your mental health struggles, I also note that you were fully capable of planning and executing this crime. The protection of society, particularly the most vulnerable among us, requires the harshest possible sentence." She sentenced Patricia to 25 years in prison with no possibility of parole for 15 years. As the bailiffs led Patricia away, she turned one last time to look at us. "I would have been a good mother," she said. Just that. Then she was gone. The closure should have felt satisfying, but instead, I just felt empty. The woman who'd tried to steal my daughter was going to prison for a long time, but the damage she'd done to our family couldn't be undone by a sentence. In the months following the trial, we slowly started to rebuild. The therapy helped. We joined a support group for parents of attempted abduction victims and found community with other families who understood the specific trauma we'd experienced. We celebrated Lily's first birthday with intense gratitude and lingering anxiety. Every milestone felt both precious and fragile, colored by the knowledge of how easily it all could have been taken away. Kelsey stayed in touch with us throughout the trial, feeling tremendous guilt, even though we repeatedly told her none of this was her fault. She eventually moved to another city, unable to shake the trauma of having her identity stolen and used in such a horrible way. We understood. Sometimes starting over somewhere new was the only way to move forward. A year after Patricia's conviction, we received a letter from her prison counselor. Patricia wanted to apologize directly to us. The counselor explained that she'd been in intensive therapy and had come to understand the harm she'd caused. She wanted to express remorse. We declined. Some apologies don't deserve to be heard, and we didn't owe Patricia Dunn our forgiveness or our time. She'd stolen enough from us. Lily is 3 years old now. She has no memory of that day, no trauma from being held by a stranger who wanted to make her disappear. That's a gift. The gift of childhood amnesia protecting her from something her young mind couldn't process. But Amber and I remember. We'll always remember. The security cameras are still active. Our routines are still varied. We're still more cautious than most parents, more aware of threats that statistically probably won't materialize. But we've also learned to find joy again. Lily's laugh can still cut through the anxiety and remind us why we fought so hard to protect her. Every ordinary day, breakfast together, walks to the park, bedtime stories, feels a little more precious because we know how easily it could have been lost. Patricia Dunn tried to steal our daughter, but she didn't succeed. She tried to steal our future, but we're still here building it one day at a time. The trial made local news and then faded from headlines. Most people who read about it probably forgot the details within a week. But for us, it's permanent. It's the dividing line in our lives, before that Thursday evening and after, before we knew that someone could plan for months to steal our child. After we learned that monsters don't always look like monsters, they sometimes look like middle-aged women with gentle voices who would tell you they're doing it out of love. 3 years later, I still think about that text message from Amber. "Check the baby monitor. That's not our nanny. I don't know who that woman is holding our daughter." 13 words that changed everything. 13 words that meant the difference between Lily sleeping in her crib upstairs right now and us spending the rest of our lives searching for a daughter we'd never see again. I think about how easily Amber could have ignored her instinct, dismissed the feeling that something was wrong, assumed she was just tired or paranoid. That's the thing that haunts me most. Not what happened, but how close we came to losing everything because of the thinnest margin of luck and timing. If Amber had checked the monitor 5 minutes later, Patricia might have already left. If Amber had convinced herself she was seeing things wrong, we'd have come home to an empty house. If Kelsey's bag hadn't been stolen in a way that made her immediately go to the police and call us, we might have assumed Kelsey had our daughter and wouldn't have realized the truth for hours. All those tiny moments of chance and choice aligned to save Lily. That's not justice. That's just luck. Justice came later, in courtrooms and sentences, and the knowledge that Patricia Dunn wouldn't hurt another family for at least 15 years. But luck came first, in a mother's instinct, and a text message sent at exactly the right time. I've learned that protecting your children isn't about perfect security systems or background checks or careful planning. Those things help, but they're not enough. Sometimes protection comes down to trusting your gut when something feels wrong, even if you can't articulate why. Sometimes it's about being willing to look paranoid or overprotective because the alternative is too terrible to risk. Lily is asleep upstairs right now in her room with the upgraded security cameras and the new smart locks and all the precautions we take that most parents would probably consider excessive. Amber is beside me on the couch, both of us monitoring the feeds on our phones, even though we know rationally that lightning rarely strikes twice. But rational doesn't really matter when you've lived through what we lived through. Rational is a luxury for people who haven't watched a stranger hold their child on a baby monitor and realized their entire world was about to end. So we stay vigilant. We stay grateful. And every night at bedtime, I still check that monitor one more time before I can even think about sleeping. Not because I expect to see something wrong, but because that 13-word text message taught me that the worst thing you can imagine can happen in the time it takes to grab your keys and head home from work. The woman who tried to take my daughter is in prison. She can't hurt us anymore. But the knowledge that someone could want to, could plan to, could come so close to succeeding, that stays with you. That changes how you see the world forever. And maybe that's the real price of what Patricia Dunn did. Not just the months of therapy and the security systems and the lifestyle changes, but the permanent loss of innocence, the death of the assumption that your family is safe simply because you love them and care for them and do everything right. She taught us that love isn't enough. That doing everything right isn't enough. That sometimes the only thing standing between you and absolute devastation is a mother's instinct and a text message sent at exactly the right moment. Lily is safe now. That's what matters. But the question, what if, never really goes away. What if Amber hadn't checked? What if I'd been in a meeting? What if Kelsey hadn't reported the theft immediately? What if? Those questions don't have answers, and I've learned to live with that uncertainty. I've learned that you can't protect against everything, but you can pay attention. You can trust your instincts. You can take that extra second to check the monitor even when you're tired and ready to go home. Because sometimes that extra second is all that stands between your normal life and a nightmare you'll never wake up from. And I'll never stop being grateful that we took that second, that we checked, that we acted, that our daughter is asleep upstairs instead of lost somewhere we'd never find her. That's not justice. It's just survival. But some days, survival is enough. If you made it this far, hit like. You've earned it.